Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Partnerships for Profit. I'm your host, Ana Del Rio, and this week we're joined by Ilya D. Frangos, partner at, did you say Galine? Galine, why did I already forget that? At Galine, Frye Fitting and Frangos, a powerhouse trial attorney known for securing life-changing verdicts, settlements, and justice for injury victims across California. How are you doing today, Ilya?
I'm doing great. Fantastic. I'm very excited to be on here with you. And this is great. Thank you for having me on.
I'm so excited that you're here. We had such a great conversation prior to, so that's why we're kind of running a little late than our scheduled time, but that's completely okay.
I've been told I talk too much, and I don't know if it's personality or being a lawyer, but yeah, it happens.
No, we love to hear it. So tell everybody about yourself, where you're coming from, like your background and whatnot.
Sure. My firm is Galine, Frye Fitting and Frangos. We are a firm out of the San Francisco Bay Area, and we specialize primarily in personal injury cases, more of the serious life-changing injury cases, as well as some employment and malpractice work. The firm has been around for, I want to say over 40 or 50 years, and I have been in the firm for about 15 years and just grew up in this building where the firm is, and I kind of grew up with some of the lawyers. And when I became a lawyer, I started doing contract work, and here I am.
There you are. So what kind of steered you towards the legal field, like as a whole?
My dad was a huge influence on me. So my dad is also a lawyer. He does more real estate, wills, and trusts. But he did a lot of miscellaneous legal work. And as a kid, I grew up just having people interacting with my dad that would come up to him and thank him and just say, hey, thank you so much for the help, the work that you did. Thank you so much for helping us. In particular, I had a few friends whose dads my dad helped, and I saw what a difference he made for them. And I thought that's pretty cool that you can make a difference for people and use kind of your education and your training as a lawyer to help people. And so from a young age, that's what I wanted to do. I have two younger brothers. My middle brother said, absolutely not. This seems like a terrible career. Everyone's stressed all the time and a lot of paperwork. And then my youngest brother decided to become a lawyer because I didn't learn my lesson. But yeah, it was, it's really pretty neat to find out that your dad helped someone who was injured and couldn't work and was able to then get benefits to pay for his family's groceries. Or we had someone her house was going to be foreclosed on, and he saved her house. And so my friends were able to stay in their house. I mean, there's so many stories, but that really, really left a big impression on me when I was a kid.
That's so sweet. I mean, you come from like it feels like a whole household of lawyers. So it's like inevitable for you to actually get into the legal field.
It's funny. My dad never put any pressure on me. I would ask him, hey, Dad, I want to be a lawyer. And he said, do what you want to do, whatever makes you happy. And, I said, I want to apply to law schools, do whatever you want to do. I want to do, go into, at first I wanted to be a criminal lawyer, district attorney, and then eventually into civil. And he was always very supportive, but didn't really direct me in any way. He said, I just want you to do whatever makes you happy. And I think having that freedom and support, I mean, he didn't really steer me either way, but he led by example. And that's why I ended up becoming a lawyer.
So do you think that if he gave you a little bit more direction, that it would have taken a different direction?
There are some times where I thought, gosh, he could have given me a little bit like a push in one way or the other. But I think that having him in the background and having his support no matter what I did. And, I would ask him questions like, hey, what do you think? Like, for example, I worked with him for a year before I joined Galine, Frye Fitting and Galine, Frye and Fitting at the time. And I said, Dad, I want to be more in court. At the time, the DA's offices were not really hiring when I passed the bar. And he says, if you want to be more in court, you should do more litigation work instead of wills and trusts and estate planning. And he kind of guided me to go down the hall to talk to the partners that were Galine, Frye, and Fitting, and I said, hey, whatever cases are having difficulties with, whatever cases are smaller cases, I'm willing to take it all on. And so I worked full time for my dad while working for them. And eventually I ended up handling like 20 cases for them while working full time for my dad. And he really did support me when I came to him and I said, hey, they're offering me a job now. They're saying, if you're working part time and doing so well, what if we hired you full time? And he could have held it against me and said, you know what, this is the family business. And what are you doing?
Yeah.
A betrayal. But no, he said, you know, if that's what you want to do, if you want to do more litigation, this sounds like an amazing opportunity for you. And so he did guide me in that sense.
You seem to have a very, very strong support system, and that's absolutely beautiful. I mean, you don't hear that quite often.
I'm very lucky, and I think that's why I really enjoy doing what I'm doing and working with the general public, because
Mhm.
I can tell you that not everyone has the resources, the foundation, the family foundation that I had,
Mhm.
the love in the household. I'm so lucky, and I was just lucky to be born into a wonderful family, and that's part of what makes me so passionate about what I do and wanting to help people, because I feel that I have a duty to do that.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. And yeah. So you've built a career fighting for people whose lives were changed by like negligence, someone else's negligence.
Yes.
What was one case that forever shaped how you see justice?
You
Mm.
know, gosh, there's been so many cases, but I think one case in particular where I felt I made a difference. I mean, we've handled so many challenging, complex cases and
Mhm.
cases involving really awful injuries that changed the
Mhm.
course of people's lives. But one case in particular that stood out where I came away thinking that I made a difference was we had a very complex construction accident case. The other side had 3 different lawyers, all very senior and experienced. And my client was one of the subcontractors who suffered some pretty bad injuries due to one of the subcontractors and general contractors' negligence.
Mm.
And he had a 6th grade education. He didn't speak English. We went to his deposition, and one of the attorneys in particular, a very seasoned attorney, so he knew better, was really just bullying him and really
Oh.
just trying to intimidate him during the deposition, asking him, knowing that he was illiterate, and asking him, here, I want to show you some documents. Can you tell me what they say? I mean, really just being incredibly inappropriate just to kind of make him freak out during the deposition. So I did what most good lawyers, I think, would do, which is I asked for a break. I asked everyone to step out other than the attorneys. And I really uncharacteristically, because I'm very collaborative in nature, I want to
Mhm.
work with the other side. And if we agree to disagree, then let's go to trial, and that's fine. The
Right.
jury will decide. But I'm collaborative because we're all people. It was one of those times where I really got in that attorney's face, and I just said, listen, this is a human being you're talking to. This is a person. You know their level of education. You know their level of or their that they don't speak English, and
Mhm.
you are trying to take advantage of that instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is finding out what happened and how this
Mhm.
person was hurt and how it affected their lives. And that is so wildly inappropriate. And I won't get into it because I was really fired up in that meeting.
Mm.
And
Imagine.
of course, the other attorney stepped in. The attorney I was directing my attention to said, I'm not doing that. But as soon as we got back into the deposition, everything changed. The format of the questions changed. The tone of the questions changed. The way that it was handled was changed. And it stuck with me because my client would have never had an opportunity to defend himself properly. He just didn't have the foundation that I had. And to
Mhm.
be able to step in his place and represent him and make sure that he was treated fairly, that really made me realize what an important job that we have. And so that was something. Um, and I have a second story, but I'll let you go to your next question.
You can tell us your story. You don't have to wait on my question.
All
Tell
right.
us.
All right. Good. There's 2, this one and one other one. I'll keep it short.
Okay.
A woman came to us. She was rear-ended. It was a very small case. And basically the body shop was holding on to her car, and the other insurance company was saying that she was at fault. And so she didn't have a car. She was hurt. And no one would take her case because it was a small case. And I looked at it and I said,
Mhm.
you know, this is wrong. What's happened to this woman? No one's going to make money off this case, but I think it's important. And there's so many lawyers like me that do this. I want to help this person. This is a righteous case. So we took it on, and I called the body shop and I said, if I can get you paid and get your storage fees paid, and if I can do that, will you release the car and not, and charge my client any kind of fees? They said, absolutely. I called the insurance adjuster and I said, hey, how is this rear end accident my client's fault? It seems like you're trying to take advantage of her because she doesn't speak the language. She didn't. She was a Cantonese speaker.
God.
And they said, oh, well, let me look at it. I said, well, I have a traffic collision report. It says your client rear-ended my client. I'm just trying to understand what the issue is. They called me, Anna, they called me the next day, and they said, sorry, we're going to pay for the damage to her car. And because of her pain and suffering, she had a ER visit, some bills, and a couple weeks of discomfort. They also offered her money. And it brought me such joy. And I, of course, did not take a fee. It brought me such joy to call her up the next day and say, hey, I've got some good news for you. Your car's paid for. It's going to be released on Tuesday, and you're going to get X amount of money for your pain and suffering. All your bills are paid. And she started crying on the phone.
Oh my gosh. I can only
And
imagine.
it's funny because we've had some really big settlements and verdicts, but though that story has stuck in my mind as what happens when you do the right thing.
No, absolutely. I mean, we had a very good talk before actually getting on this show, and there is something that you and I have in common that's very near and dear to our hearts. And I want to touch on this. I know that you're very humble when it comes to, what you've done for our country. So if you could kind of explain to us what it is that you've done and how you've helped our military community,
Sure.
get justice.
I'm happy to do that. I served with the California State Military Reserve for 5 years as a JAG officer. And what I was able to do is basically the State Military Reserve supplements the National Guard. And I was in a really interesting role, and I was helping soldiers and their families with civilian issues as they came up. So we had a few situations where if we had to provide family law advice, or if we had to provide criminal law advice, or in 2 cases that popped to mind. One, a bank was trying to foreclose on a soldier's home while he was deployed, and I want to say he was deployed in Kuwait.
Nope.
And they're not allowed to do that.
Nope.
And the National Guard had contacted them and said, hey, look, you can't do this. It's not allowed. And they were going ahead anyway. And I was given orders to appear in San Mateo County Superior Court as a JAG officer. And I was able to bring forth a motion that says this is not allowed. And we prevented that foreclosure. We had a landlord trying to evict the family of a service member. And they tried to evict them and give them 2 weeks notice. And I said, no, you can't do that. So I have tremendous respect for the military. I don't feel that my service is anywhere close to what our service members do day in and day out. The State Military Reserve is a volunteer organization, and but I really got a newfound appreciation for the military because I got to interact with a lot of service members that were sacrificing their families and all to protect our country. And if I was able to do a little bit to help make their lives easier, I was happy to do it. And so it was a great experience. And the only reason I stopped is, my wife said after about 5 years, hey, you're working weekends, you work late, you're drilling, something's got to give. And that's how it ended. And I think that was a fair comment to make at the time.
No, absolutely. Like, yeah, it can be very taxing, I can imagine. Like, as a trial as a trial lawyer and former JAG captain, like, what parallels do you see between military discipline and courtroom advocacy?
Sure. I was gonna make the joke that I still am a trial learner because we keep practicing.
There you go. Everybody's a learner.
Yeah, everyone's a
in some
trial
way.
learner. I think the parallels are the most important thing that I see is civility. I think civility is so important, and we live in a time where people sometimes think that they can talk to other attorneys a certain way or engage in just name calling and and just inappropriate behavior. And I think that civility from the military as well as in civilian life, that's a big parallel, because in the right courtroom with the right judge and the right opposing counsel, everyone is civil. Everyone understands that this is a process, that we are human beings, that these cases are real and have significance. And the other person on the other side is not evil. They're doing their job. And that's how it's supposed to be. And I think leading by example and looking to kind of the civility and order in the military, the same can be that can happen and should happen in court. It doesn't always happen, and that's why you have the checks and balances of a judge, and holding people accountable through motions, and trying to, and the state bar, and trying to identify bad behavior so that it doesn't continue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Didn't think of it from that perspective, the parallel being that civility, but it makes complete sense.
Well, the other thing is the structure, right? One of the things they teach you in the military is that you are a cog in a giant machine, and every piece of that machine is important. So if you are, it doesn't matter what role you have. And I think that's the same with our justice system, or the same with the court, bailiff, court reporter, court clerk, the judge, the people behind the scenes, the clerks in the filing office. I mean, if any one of those pieces of that machine are taken out or removed, justice falls apart. And the same thing with the military. Every single military service member has a purpose. So I think those are the two parallels that I saw.
That's great. So you often speak about like responsibility beyond the courtroom. What is the biggest way law firms can serve their communities outside of like billable hours?
I'm really glad you brought that up. I'm really passionate about this.
Good.
I feel, and maybe it's because I recognize that I had a loving family and support to guide me to where I am today. But I think that regardless of how you get here, you are as an attorney, you have a specific set of knowledge and skills that other people don't have. And as a result of that, I think you have a duty to make your community better. And you can start with your family, and you could start with your local community, and you could start with your city, and kind of, branch out. But we're very passionate about that. We recently, with our law firm, had 2 initiatives that we were working on. One was a pedestrian safety initiative and just awareness. We had a tragic case that happened in our city. So we worked with the local law enforcement to do a pedestrian safety kind of function, where we talked about pedestrian safety, and when you're out for walks at night, because this was a nighttime incident, have a flashlight, have awareness. But something that I'm right now working on actively is awareness about e-bikes. In my community, I'm seeing a ton of kids on e-bikes, young children that are not following the rules. There's 3 classes of e-bikes: class 1, class 2, class 3. Each of them have specific rules assigned to them. And I'm seeing those rules being violated right and left. And it prompted me to do an Instagram reel about it, to do an article in the local newspaper about it. And the overwhelming response to that, people that were like, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you're talking about this, because it's a real problem. What can we do to protect our kids? Those are the types of things that we do with our firm, and that I do, because I want to make our community safer and better. And we've had cases in the past where the results of the case of us litigating them have resulted in something positive for the community.
I love how you have taken your upbringing and just spread it around. The love that you have. I can't even complete my thoughts, because I feel in a way, so not shocked. What's the word that I'm kind of looking for here? Help me out.
Surprised.
Not surprised. I mean, I wasn't expecting to. Okay, I've met a lot of lawyers, on this show, like just with what we do. But I was telling you before just how these relationships that we're building with these lawyers, everybody is so real. And they've taken a lot of their personal experiences and implemented that into their businesses in a beautiful way. And that's what I was trying to say. Like, you've really taken, it to a different level, and that's great.
Well, I think, part of it is the kind of work that we do. We get to meet people, we get to meet their families. And when you're dealing with smaller cases, there's nothing wrong with dealing with smaller cases versus bigger cases. But when you
Mhm.
have cases where the injuries are more significant, which are the
Mhm.
majority of the cases that we handle, and you see the devastating results that it has, not only to the person as an individual and their ability to do things that they enjoy, not being able to run anymore,
Mhm.
or go, train for that half marathon, or lift weights, or work with power tools, or whatever it is. But then you see the outer layer, which is the effect it has on the family, and how the family dynamic has changed, and how the children now can't play with their mom or their dad the way they did, or they can't partake in the activities that they once did. So I think because I have so much contact with a lot of these families, and seeing the real changes, I feel very strongly that if I could do anything to prevent any family from going through this. I mean, one of the things in the
Mhm.
e-bike initiatives that I've been telling people that about this, and trying to spread awareness to, I think, just be a little more restrictive, is one child being injured or dying is one child too many.
Exactly.
And part of our job, I think, is to try to take steps to prevent bad things from happening. So I think when you've seen the devastating consequences,
Mhm.
you definitely are feel more like you want to make more of a difference. So I think that's where that comes from.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ilya, for being on the show and all of this great information. We loved hearing your story. And everybody watching, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I hope everybody has a great day. Thanks again, Ilya.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.